involved 33,000 people, I heard last night. And we're here to spread the message that Jesus is Jewish and what that means. There's a lot of people here who've been very, very supportive as they've come by. There's others that have walked by and said, heresy. A couple of conflicts, a lot of indifference. It's really mixed. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lack of clarity about where Israel fits into all this. And unfortunately, in the conservative movement, there has been a bit of a shift. Charlie Kirk was a great advocate for Israel, but not everyone in the conservative movement is. And we hope that will change. We're doing our part to make that change. I met somebody that's really interesting that I think is doing something very similar. Holly Motley, by the way. That's an interesting last name, Motley.
Yes.
Holly, I like the name.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We talked a little bit, and I thought it's very interesting. You're doing something very similar.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about what you do and then how you got into this.
Yeah, so I work in combating anti-Semitism. Our goal is to educate Christians because there's historical Christian anti-Semitism. And so we want to talk to Christians about what is Judaism and what are the Jewish people and what's the connection of Jesus to the Jewish people, to Israel. And then we want to go and we want to work with Jewish people and fight anti-Semitism together after we raise up those Christians who are educated and want to stop anti-Semitism and work together. So we really want to create relationships that stand up against anti-Semitism together and support each other in their lives.
Do Christians know this simple fact, Jesus is Jewish?
I hope all do, but frankly, not everyone does. I think a lot of people know Jesus is Jewish, but they don't connect Jesus being Jewish to modern day Jewish people. And I think that's a big disconnect we see in Christianity.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
How did you get an interest in this?
That's a
now,
good
you're not
question.
Jewish, but you are Christian.
Yeah, so I am a Christian. I'm not Jewish. I grew up in a homeschooling Christian home, and our curriculum actually was based in the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible. And so I always had a very strong connection and an understanding about the people in the Bible and, Jesus and all of that were Jewish, and it happened in the land of Israel. But I didn't, again, there was that disconnect. I didn't connect it to modern day Israel or the modern Jewish people. But I actually got to go over to Israel my first year of college, and it completely changed everything for me. I fell in love.
Israel's what did it, huh?
It is.
Yes.
I mean, it was the first time I met a Jewish person, and I went to Shabbat, and I got to see where Jesus walked. But then I also got to learn about modern Israel and what is going on and what's the struggles and where are they excelling and all of that. And I came back. I was just so excited. It was 2023 in the spring, and I was like, Israel's so fun. This is the best trip of my life. And a week after I got back, a professor, school started, and I wear a Jewish star because I want to support the Jewish people. And a professor asked me if I had ever been to Israel or been to a different country. And I was like, yeah, I just got back from Israel. And of course, immediately we heard things like, oh, Israel's an apartheid, the Jewish people are controlling, all of the conspiracy theories. And after a semester long of hearing this over and over again, me, a stubborn person, was like, if this is what I experience as a Christian, I can't imagine what the Jewish kids on my campus are experiencing and facing. And so I began to reach out and connect with the Jewish community on my campus, and I heard their stories, and I heard what they were facing, and then I saw how Christians were, on large, doing nothing. They weren't connecting or supporting or standing up when professors were making Jewish kids leave the class or anything like that, and there was just no connection. And so I began volunteering in college, just trying to get Christians and Jews to interact. And so Christians could recognize that Jesus was Jewish. Jesus is Jewish. Jewish people are the same then as they are now. And so I really wanted to just begin connecting those dots for Christians and supporting my Jewish brothers and sisters against anti-Semitism.
Did you find a lot of receptivity from the Jewish people?
I do, actually. Some
I'm
of
not
my
surprised.
Yeah, I know, right? A lot of my really close friends are Jewish because I realized what was going on, and then I just started showing up. And initially, like, they were very shocked and very surprised. And they were like, "Why, as a Christian, are you doing this?" And eventually, now we just have some beautiful friendships, and we're in this fight together. And I wouldn't change anything for that.
Beautiful. How about Christians that you're talking to? Or
It's
Gen Zers? How old are you, by the way?
I'm 22.
22.
So Gen Z.
So, are you would have either finished undergrad and in grad now, or?
Yeah, I finished undergrad. I'm taking a year off. I do want to eventually go to grad school, but that's, saving money, working, that kind of thing. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Talk about your encounters with other Gen Z Christians, or
it's a great question,
or just students.
Absolutely. I think it's been mixed from Christians. I was really surprised when I first started interacting with other Christians that this idea that Jesus was Jewish, that Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people, that we need to work with modern day Jewish people to fight anti-Semitism wasn't a universal idea. I was very shocked because I was like, I don't know how to see it any other way. And obviously there's been some amazing Christians that I've gotten to work with, young people my age that have been really instrumental in my story and getting here. But unfortunately there has been several Christians that either they don't recognize Jesus as Jewish, or they don't see it as important, or they don't want to fight anti-Semitism. So it's been very interesting, and it makes me more passionate about what I do because, if Christians who are reading the Bible are believing that Jesus wasn't Jewish or in replacement theology or anything like that, then that's something I want to speak to. And as a Christian, I have the opportunity and the voice to speak into so many Christians. And so if I have the voice to speak to them and talk to them about Jesus being Jewish and replacement theology and anti-Semitism, I'm going to use it.
That's wonderful. Why do you think that there's been a growing move away from Israel, or anti-Israel, with your generation, specifically or particularly?
I think there's a couple reasons. I think in non-Christian people my age, I think that a large reason is just a lack of education. I mean, I do believe that our public education system is, it's a great intention and there's a lot of wonderful people in it. But I do think it is flawed and it's failing in that aspect of educating. In history of America, the importance of America and Israel's relationship, and what Israel does for America. And so I think when we're no longer getting that education, or you're able to go all the way through school and never learn that there's a democracy in the Middle East that's on the front lines of the war for democracy, when you get to my age and suddenly you're on social media and you haven't had that background of understanding what it is, and someone on TikTok or Instagram pops up and says that Israel is colonizing, or any of these things that we've been hearing a lot recently, it's when our generation is obsessed with social justice and wanting to do the right thing, and someone says that, when they don't have that background information, they're going to believe it.
Yeah, whether it's apartheid, whether it's colonizers,
oppressing, genocidal, any of that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
So I think in the non-Christian people my age, a large part of it is because they don't have the education background or understanding of what is Israel and why is it important. And so when a video comes up that pulls on their heartstrings, they're emotionally blackmailed in a sense, and they don't understand. But
they don't know the history or the other side of the story, right?
Right, and I think that's one of the things that's missing, for sure. And, within Christians, I think it's similar, but it's a different issue. I think there's a level of biblical illiteracy among Christians my age, where if you grew up in the church, maybe basic understanding, but really understanding what is the Bible, where did it take place, who was Jesus, all of these things are such a level of illiteracy where people are like, I recognize Jesus as my Lord and Savior, but I don't really understand any of this, and they no longer see the importance of Israel and the Jewish people because they're not studying their Bible, or they're not getting that in education.
And they don't get a sense of the context of,
which is
the
important.
Background of Jesus.
Yeah, it's necessary.
Who he was and is.
It's necessary to read the Bible in context to when it was written and where it was written, because otherwise you're not getting the full understanding of what the text meant. And if you can read Hebrew, read it in Hebrew, right? Or Greek, or whatever the original text was for the part of the Bible you're reading.
Yeah. Do you think that college professors play into that negativity?
Yeah, I do.
And why?
You know, so I do think college professors did. I have several friends. One of my really close Jewish friends, she did a year abroad in Israel. And after October 7th, her professor, it was like an English class, nothing related to geopolitics or anything like that. But we had encampments on our university, and he took his class on a field trip to be a part of the protests and encampments. And so when you have a person in authority that you're trusting to educate you and tell you what is right, and then they're taking you out and being like, let's stand with these people that are, saying awful things. Sometimes they're just saying free Palestine. Sometimes they're saying death to the Jews. And when you have that person in authority telling students, young, impressionable minds, that this is right, this is true, it totally changes the climate of your campus. I was very lucky to have an amazing professor that actually studied in Israel. And he worked every day to try to change the narrative about Israel and educate about Israel because no one else was. And they were just adding into that.
Yeah. What can people that are watching do to help this effort?
That's a great question. I mean, if you're Christian, I think it's really important to, obviously read your Bible. Get into it and understand, like, Jesus was Jewish. What does that mean then, and what does that mean for us today? And then hold your churches accountable. I mean, if you're going to a church that is preaching unbiblical doctrine about Jesus not being Jewish or replacement theology, then it's important to hold your church accountable or find a new church. And if you're a young Christian, when you see anti-Semitism, stand up against it. Get involved. When you see something happen, it's very important that you do speak up. I mean, Jesus calls us to stand up for, the widows, take care of the widows and orphans, stand up for what is right. So when you see someone being anti-Semitic, don't just sit there, do something, and do it in love. Do it as Jesus would do it, but do something. And, I think another great way is reaching out to your local Jewish community if you're Christian. Reach out, after the Bondi attack. It was super important for a lot of my Jewish friends when the Christians that we had been working out reached out and called and said, hey, how are you doing? How can we help you? So reaching out is super important. Getting involved, even in any small way. Go to a Shabbat dinner, talk with the Jewish community, ask about their experiences.
What a great answer.
Yeah.
Kelly, when I meet people like you, I have a lot of hope for your generation.
Well, thank you.
And I think God is doing something very unique.
I hope so.
With Gen Zers. I really do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, we're going to be live throughout the day, so stick around. What a great day it's just to spend with us on Saturday, right? On Shabbat. So keep resting, and we'll be back with more live from Turning Point AmeriFest in Phoenix, Arizona.